taking a bit of a pause here because I want to also address another conversation that came in because it's a fair question. Blair asks us, here's a question for you, Chewy. I've been a viewer for some time. I'm curious why all the bashing of the right-leaning political parties and yet this current government has fucked most things up and achieved bugger all. Well, I disagree with that statement. And you obviously haven't, maybe you have been a viewer for some time, but there has been many, many nights and many, many episodes and many, many parts of many, many episodes where we have been absolutely brutal on the left and continue to be so. We are very overt with where we sit. We sit on the left, but I think we call pitches and strikes. If the left requires a beat up, we beat them up. If the right requires congratulations, we congratulate them. And our bias, and this is the thing, right? People are like, I've seen this in chats a few times, as in the YouTube chats. You know, how about some balance? Why all the bias? I'm like, no. If this is a commentary show, we're commentators. We're not journalists.
We're not journalists.
And the thing is, every commentator has bias. We're just honest about ours. Like the others aren't honest. You know, they will say that they are, you know, down the middle, or they will say this. We're just honest with where we come from. And to be honest with you, we're looking quite intently at the debate at the moment and at the policy at the moment. And I see terrible policy on the right. So we're going to call it out. I see boring, inane policy on the left, and we'll call that out. But if you had the choice, right, let's say you were going in a plane flight, you know, between Auckland and Wellington, and one of the flights was dangerous, a dangerous flight for whatever reason, and one was boring, which would you pick? I'd take the boring flight than the dangerous flight. And it's the same. It's like, I think the left is especially Labour, unbelievably boring at the moment. They're not inspirational. They don't feel like the kind of leadership I want to follow into battle. I look at the Māori Party, I look at the Greens, and they're not in the same camp, right? I see inspiration and things to follow, and there's something to vote for. I look at the right and I think, fucking hell, there is genuine danger in some of those policies. There is fear-mongering going on. There is race baiting going on. And that's how we see it. Well, that's how I see it. Yep. Chewy, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, if I could answer, I answered it very briefly in the chat, but I'll expand on it a little bit, right? As Pat said, we've been very, very critical on Labour. I have found them boring, uninspired, and they haven't reached for the heights that they could have reached for. They didn't use their mandate that they were given last 100%. Time round. There's been a couple of really devastating things, and I think at the start of this campaign, they're really phoning it in and just not picking up things that were there for them to pick up, like the broad support on a wealth tax, or looking at what the Greens were doing and going, well, you know, we could take maybe not as strong a position because they've set the limit, right? And we could be the more reasonable thing, but we'll use that to advance our cause a little bit. And they've ruled too much stuff out. And I think the reason that we're so harsh on the right is because we're on the left, right? Some of their fundamental stances, like coming down hard on beneficiaries rather than going after tax cheats, as an example. Going back to their ideas cupboards for policies that have been tried and shown to fail internationally multiple times. Trying to bring back policies that have objectively made the landscape here in New Zealand worse for more people, and just doing that for political points because they know it'll play well with the base. For, you know, I've said, even if you're on the right, I think, in my opinion, you should be just as angry with them because National have not brought their A game. They have been phoning it in because they've been sitting there going, man, a lot of people are unhappy with Labour at the moment for various reasons. We don't even have to try. We're going to get this guy that's been with Air New Zealand who's been here for about 5 minutes. We're going to chuck him in the top job. Job done. Real easy. Yeah. They've come up with tax policy seemingly on the back of a Bellamy's napkin. They haven't workshopped it. They haven't made sure that it hasn't been tried before and ruled out by John Key's government. They brought out fucking, you know, boot camps. They got slammed for that last time and it didn't work. They are phoning it in.
Yeah.
They are short-term thinkers. And that's why I look, we said this last week, right, Pat? Objectively, we'll probably be fine whatever the government is, right?
Pretty much.
But there are people who do not have a podcast, that do not have people in their corner, that are just going to get fucking slammed by the right. These policies that these guys are talking about, the people that they're whistling to, their coalition partners are coming in, and they're literally full of people that sound like they wanted to be on the front lawn of Parliament with the gallows being set up. That's concerning. We should be furious that they're talking to that. That should rule people out. Why the fuck is anyone talking to Winston Peters? Why is he going? I saw on Twitter, he said, "Oh, well, Luxon can't do the debate.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll do
happily debate Chris Hipkins." And I wanted to go, mate, you're within the margin of error of being irrelevant again. Why the fuck would anyone break their stride to talk to you? You're the ghost. I don't want any of your ghost chips, man.
Yeah, bro. Here's what I just wrote down while you were talking. We criticize the shit out of the left based on what we want to see and they're not doing. And we criticize the shit out of the right of what we don't want to see and they are doing. Because we're on the left. So if you're on the right, then the reason you probably see us as being unfair is that we're criticizing the right for doing things that we don't want to see. That might be things that you do want to see. But that's where we sit. So we criticize both sides, but we criticize the left because, for example, and I think me and Terry are in the same camp as this, they didn't put through cannabis reforms when they had a majority. They could have been a completely different, we could have been a completely different country. So we criticize them for that kind of stuff. We criticize the right for doing things like national standards. We don't want to see that. So the left for things we do want to see they didn't do, and the right for things we don't want to see that they either did do or in the election cycle are promising to do.
Anyway. And it's really clear. National have clear ideological links with the Conservatives over in the UK and the lobby groups that pull for them, and clear links with the right wing over in Australia too. So you can see whose homework they've been reading, and you can look at those countries and see how those policies played out in their countries. And I'm sorry, the UK is a fucking disaster.
Yep. And we will be... Remember when Brexit came through, and then the days after, I've talked about this before, all the headlines were saying remorse and regret because all the people who were voting to just get rid of those hippy dippy losers and UK number one, then when they realised actually they've fucked themselves for travel, they've fucked themselves for trade all through the EU, that there was regret and remorse. And I wonder, 18 months into a 3-year term, if there will be a whole bunch of people going, oh, maybe this wasn't the move that we thought it would be.